fine. And unfortunately, I'll let you guys know that I actually do have to bounce at the top of the hour. But so I'm going to skip my presentation. But I wanted to echo everything that Jim is saying is absolutely the thing that we're all wrestling with as we wrestle with Web3. And it's so interesting because my career started in Web 1, working with big brands like the Oxygen Network, which was nascent at the time, and ESPN and folks like that, trying to figure out the internet. And now here we are trying to figure out Web3, trying to figure out the metaverse together, and brands are doing the same thing. And so it's not just brands, but it's also, you know, being able to produce the kind of quality entertainment, whether that's a game on your phone or it's something that everybody's talking about, whether it's a Black Mirror, like Jim said, but being able to build communities around that is what Web3 is all about. And it's so interesting because I've been having a lot of conversations with DAOs, Game7.io, which is coming out of BitDAO, and folks that are talking about like, what is this metaverse and how do we guide it? And especially those of us that have been around and have done Web 1, 2, and 3 are really looking towards not only what is important for audiences that are already consuming content that are Web 2 content, or consuming content that's on television, but also emerging markets. And that was, when I talked to Alex about this recently, and the deck that I have that I will be happy to send to anybody later is really about using Axie Infinity as a case study for emerging markets and how things are different. And I'm going to present only one slide from it, but it's something that I think is really important and germane to the discussion. We talk about things like brands trying to figure out how to navigate, and gaming studios trying to figure out how to navigate, television studios, generally like the whole population trying to figure out how to go from Web 2, which is the social layer, which is social internet, to Web 3, which is a more distributed, co-created model. Alex really pointed out in his presentation how co-creation is actually the hallmark of Web 3. And when I say co-creation, it's not just, I had an idea on the internet and they made a television show out of it, but it's more, I had an idea on the internet and I received some of the compensation and the recognition for coming up with that idea, which is what the blockchain helps us do, right? So not going through all of my presentation, but going through a little bit of it. One of the things that I found the most interesting, I was working at FTX and I hired a Philippine team, and I hired them specifically because they have a lot of blockchain experience, because they'd worked for Coinbase, or they'd worked for Kraken, or they'd worked for different companies that had gone with a let's get really low paid folks in the third world model. And it's not a knock on them. It's just that the minimum wage is so much less there than it is here. But these people, especially the folks that I hired, that I mentored, that I know, that I've gone to Cebu and visited, these folks were looking for an entry point. They were looking for a way to get in to the metaverse, to the things that they'd heard about, the things that they were excited about. They were playing games. They had their phones. They were asking, how can we be a part of ownership? How can we be a part of the global economy? And that's actually one of the greatest things. Like, we talk about brands wanting to get in, and this wanting to get in, and that wanting to get in. But what I get excited about is women wanting to get in, and people who have been traditionally shut out of gaming, or that feel intimidated by gaming, or feel intimidated by picking up their phone and actually leveling up a character. And then, this is Axie Infinity talk, that, you get your character, you breed them, you level up, you're able to sell the fruits of your labor for a certain amount of capital. That's really important. And that's one of the things that makes me most excited about the metaverse, is not how can brands exploit it or how can we understand it, but how can women and how can people who have been traditionally shut out of a lot of financial instruments actually use the metaverse to increase their social capital and their actual capital. And I have a lot of massive amounts of real world examples, and frankly, find me on LinkedIn and I would love to talk to you about it. But one of the things that I found the most compelling is a recent study that was done And that's the thing that I'm going to share. So let me do that real quick, because it was actually the thing that blew my mind today while I was
Rebecca,
preparing
how
this
about the
presentation.
scheme over what you prepare and focus on this one? How about it? Because I want to see, because I will look at the first page and I'm fascinated about your presentation.
I will share it with everybody. Unfortunately, I do have a hard
stop. You can, if you share that, I will let them know.
I'll do a share and I'll send you the link. But this is the moment that actually, let me go back. This is the moment actually that blew my mind. So I have a number of folks that I know in the Philippines that I love. They're people that helped me build FTX's customer support to what it is today. They're people that also, have families, and they went through a terrible typhoon last year and they had a lot of rebuilding to do. This is what the metaverse is doing right now as we speak, not theoretical. There are folks in the Philippines that are making well over minimum wage simply by participating in this global phenomenon that is Axie Infinity. It's not just the Philippines, it's Southeast Asia, it's India, it's places where they're allowed to play and allowed to earn, to earn AXS, to burn the SLT. A lot of you guys have probably already heard about it, but I'd love to talk about this more in depth, and I apologize that I'm kind of running short of time today, but here is the bottom line and the thing that I found today. Right now, American companies are paying less than $2 an hour for folks to answer phones for them in the Philippines and in Malaysia and a lot of these other, folks, and they're there and they're doing this work. But what crypto has done and what Web3 has done and what this nascent metaverse has done is say, hey, this is an agnostic situation. It doesn't matter where you are. You can earn, you can see the fruits of your labor, and you can play games and you can participate in the same economy that everybody else does. And there are no boundaries. There's not a country boundary. There's not, your government says that you can't do this or this is your wage, but it's what you put into it that comes back. And that's what I think most of us that are working in gaming, in entertainment that is metaverse enabled, working with brands, but also just working with real, honest folks that are just out there. This is the thing that's the most exciting. We have an opportunity as a community, not a crypto, just a crypto community, but generally as a community, to acknowledge the fact that, there are a lot of crazy governments. There's a lot of dictatorial people out there. There's, in the Philippines in particular, they've had somebody ruling them in a pseudo-democratic situation that has kept wages low for folks, but also, is very much corrupt and hoarding. And so it's been interesting, especially in the aftermath of the recent typhoon last year, watching crypto companies step up. I was working at the FTX at the time. Cebu got hit really bad. A lot of our folks were there. We stepped up and made sure that happened, but also the folks that were there had the power to earn a little bit of capital and to play games and to participate in this economy without having to worry about anybody coming in and taking that away from them. And I have, like I said, I'd love to go through the presentation. I'm really sorry, by the way, Alex, that I do have to go, but this is something that I think is crucial to understanding the possibilities of the metaverse. There's a lot of talk about, like right now, FTX is doing something with Coachella. There's a lot of luxury brands that are doing things. There's the Nikes of the world. There's game studios trying to figure it out right now. It's actually really exciting that BitDAO has funded Game7.io with $500 million treasury, I believe, to actually, go in and make this kind of gaming sustainable and actually reach the folks in Web2 that are really sad about, they're like, blockchain, it's terrible. I wouldn't participate in, to combat that perception. But this is me just talking as fast as I can. But there is a moment that we are currently in that allows people of color, women, people who are typically marginalized by every single tech, every innovation leaves a lot of people behind. this is the moment where I feel like this innovation is not going to leave people behind. They want to participate. We're there with them. There's an egalitarian moment that we must seize. And this is what, our talk about the sustainable metaverse says, that the way you sustain it is by incorporating everybody. I think the events of the last couple of years have really shined a light on the fact that we are a globe. We are not, as much as some folks would like to think of it this way, we can't segregate ourselves. We're together. We just had a rampant virus go through us, and we look, as participants in the human condition, we look towards these kinds of things that group us together and that, really level the playing field. And I don't know that we've had a moment quite like this. I think we might have in 95, 96 when the internet first started becoming a thing and people started talking to one another worldwide. But right now we're in a moment as well where we can level the playing field for the folks that we live near. Even if they're on the other side of the globe, we're still near. And it's so interesting watching Play to Earn evolve. Like Axie, I think, is a really good example, because I think the folks that, despite hacks, despite sidechain problems, despite everything, I think there's a really good, solid tokenomics there that really actually enables this economy. But I'm actually really excited and interested to hear what's next and how it enables the folks that are in India or in Pakistan, or those folks that really want to participate in this global economy. And I'm talking about the real people, not the governments or not the people that are fighting over resources, but actually real people that have families. And so that's what I'm excited about when we talk about the sustainable metaverse. I think of it as everybody has an equal opportunity given the constraints of hardware, but also knowing that the constraints of hardware are getting cheaper and cheaper. Almost everybody has a phone and they can participate in this economy. So that is my quick TED Talk, and I actually have to drop, and I hate to do that before questions, but I cannot change this meeting, unfortunately. So I'd love to hear from you guys. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Rebecca Cooper Lowe. I'm the only one, but I have to drop. So sorry.
Thanks, Rebecca. Yeah, I think that's very important aspect, right? Is what you mentioned about equal opportunity, and then also like diversity and inclusion. That's a very important topic to care about the society and people in. Yeah, that's a significant way that we should think about when you actually design metaverse. So yeah, I